The journey of entrepreneurship is about value creation. The simplest way to create value is solve a problem. That's it. The simplest way. Now, if you focus on the problem is going to serve as the North Star of your journey. And when you have one, you are going to make less deviation from the course and increase the likelihood of being successful. But I think that by and large, the story that you're about to tell is going to be way more compelling and engaging.
Uri, thanks for joining me today on this episode of Business Innovators. It's been a while. It's been a couple of years since we spoke. I know a lot has changed, but first, of course, for a lot of new listeners, I want to go back and talk because I love the app so much. So many people do. I have to go here. I want to talk about Waze and if you can go back and tell us, how did you get the idea for that? How did that start? And how long did it take for you to bring it to market?
So thank you. And I'm really glad to be here again. Waze, I think that the idea came about somewhere in 2006. And I was on a family vacation. We were actually traveling up in the northern part of Israel. And back then, there were only two major highways to come back to Tel Aviv. And as soon as we left going back home, I actually called the rest of the families that were there with us and asked them, how is traffic light on your route? And I realized that, wait a minute, one of the routes was really busy. The other one wasn't. And all I needed is someone to tell me that. That's it, right? Someone to be ahead of me on the road and tell me what's going on. And that was 2006, and I had this incubation idea, tried that in multiple approaches until 2007 when I met my two other co-founders, and then we decided that we're going to build it. We built the first version running on a PDA. Remember? Long time ago, there were dinosaurs and then PDAs and then Nokia phones.
Around the same time.
Yep. And so you think about it and you ask yourself, wait a minute, this is how fast the world is changing, right? And so anyhow, we built the first version, it was not good enough. And then we decided that, but wait a minute, we have here something. And the something was crowdsource. So Waze crowdsource everything, not just traffic information and speed cams and speed traps and so forth, but also the map data itself. So the map is actually being created by the drivers. We, the drivers, create all the content for the rest of the drivers. And with the PDA, we were able to demonstrate that this is actually feasible. And then we went to raise capital and took us about 9 months to get people to believe in our vision, right? And our vision was simple, right? We are going to crowdsource the information and help people on the daily commute. And it was only in 2008 that we officially started the company and started to build the first version that was running on a Nokia phone, right? So before that, now all of a sudden we have smartphones that are real-time connected, and that turns out to be okay, actually pretty good in Israel. And so and we launched that in 2009, and then 2010, we decided that we're going to launch that globally, everywhere, because we create the map out of thin air, right? From a blank page, we crowdsource all the data until the map is becoming fairly okay. And it was not good enough. It was not good enough in the US. It was not good enough in Western Europe. It was not good enough in any major countries, right? It was good enough actually.
What was the issue?
The issue was that the data was not sufficient and the app was not mature enough, and we had to iterate multiple times, right? Now, the challenge is as following, right? So, and this goes back to the basic, right? Building a startup is a journey of failures. You are trying to do something that no one did before. And even though that you think that you know exactly what you're doing, you don't. So you try. You try one thing and it doesn't work. We try another thing and it doesn't work. We kept on trying multiple things. For us, it was more than a year of iterations until we got it to become good enough. And it's always like that, right? So people that are using Waze today, the earlier that they've started using that, it's probably 2011. We started the journey in 2007. 4 years until we figure out product market fit. Now, the beauty of Waze is that after that, the growth was exponentially, right? Because it's mainly word of mouth. And the word of mouth is a derivative of the frequency of use. If you are using a product multiple times a day, then you have multiple times opportunity to tell someone else, right? And if you're using that once a year, then, and even if you're really excited about it, then you're going to tell it once a year to someone else, right? So word of mouth is going to happen if you have high frequency of use. But going back to the basic, right? So look, building a startup, I would define that as a three-dimensional journey, or at least in my first edition of the book, I defined that as a three-dimensional journey, right? So the first one is a roller coaster journey with ups and downs and ups and downs. And if you'll tell me that all the businesses in the world have ups and downs, I agree. But the frequency of those when you're building startup, way more. I think that I heard the best quote on that from Ben Horowitz. Ben Horowitz is one of the founders of Andreessen Horowitz venture capital firm. And before that, he used to be a CEO of a startup. And he was asked whether or not he was sleeping well at night as a CEO of a startup. He said, "Oh, yeah, I slept like a baby. I woke up every 2 hours and cried." It's really the reality. Right? So roller coaster is one dimension, journey of failure, which is really, really important, right? If you realize that this is going to be a journey of failures, then there are two immediate conclusions. The first one is that if you're afraid to fail, in reality, you already failed because you're not going to try. Albert Einstein used to say that if you haven't failed, that's because you haven't tried new things before. Innovations comes with a journey of failures. We are trying to do something that no one did before. And therefore, not all of those are going to work. The second part is that you want to fail fast, because when you fail fast, you still have plenty of time to make another attempt, another approach, another version of the product, another go-to-market approach, and so forth. So the more attempts that you make, you simply increase the likelihood of being successful. And that's the second dimension. The third one is that it's going to be a very long journey. So a long roller coaster journey of failure. And it's going to be a long journey until you figure out product market fit. And product market fit is a really simple definition. That means that you create value to your customers. You never heard of a company that did not figure out product market fit. They simply died. That's it. If you don't figure out product market fit, you will die. But for a second, I would like us to think of maybe all the applications that we are using every day, right? From searching Google to using Waze, WhatsApp, Netflix, Uber, Instagram, whatever it is, and ask yourself, what is the difference between any of those today and the first time that you have used that? And the answer is that there is no difference. We are searching Google today the same way that we searched Google for the first time in our life. We are using Waze today the same way that we used Waze for the first time in our life. So once a company figure out product market fit, they don't change that anymore. How long did it take them? We don't know. Beforehand, we never heard a name, right? For Waze, it was 4 years. For Microsoft, it was 5 years. For Netflix, it was 10 years. For OpenAI, it was 6 years until we heard the name for the first time, right? So figuring that out is a very, very long roller coaster journey of failures. And to a certain extent, I would say for product market fit, there is only one metric, retention. Look, that's really simple. If you create value, they will come back. That's it. If they are not coming back, that means that you do not create value. And so for us, that was a journey of iterations until we were able to bring and to create enough value and people will start to come back. And then the rest is history because the frequency of use, then we actually had the momentum of word of mouth to grow. One of the reasons that I decided to write another chapter to the book in the new edition is because the fourth dimension of building a startup, which is moving from one crisis to another. Look, the nearly died state of mind of an entrepreneur is always there, right? If you would ask people that build companies and you would ask them, how many times have you nearly died? Then you will start to see them doing like that.
Counting the fingers.
11, right? 19, whatever it is, right? Because that was multiple times. And a crisis is in particular, if you look at the last 5 years, right? We had global crisis, right? We had COVID. And then we had inflation, and then we had interest rate, and then we had war in Ukraine, and then we had supply chain challenges, and then we had war in Israel. And so essentially multiple crises, global crises or regional crises or even local crises, that requires different behavior. And this is really, really dramatic. And by the way, this chapter is actually, I invited also some of the CEOs of my companies that went through multiple crises to describe how does it look like from the first row. So if you think of a roller coaster, then the view from those that are sitting on the first row is very different than the rest of them. And they actually shared, in some of the companies, they shared the view of what does it mean to nearly die, right? One of them told me, a cat might have 9 lives. We know that our startup have more than that. And the reason that we know that is that we already exercise all of them, right? And so, and something that is really, really important about understanding crisis is that at the end of the day, there are only 2 types of crisis. One of them is that you are about to run out of cash. And that could happen for multiple reasons, right? So I'll give you an example. One of my startups called We Ski is the booking.com of ski vacations, right? Now just imagine beginning of COVID and there is no more travel. No one is traveling to ski areas anymore, right? In particular in Europe where the focus was. So, so they nearly died, right? And essentially what they lost is not just a little bit of the revenues, they lost 99% of the revenues. And that happens pretty significant. Now, the reality is that a crisis that is about cash, then you need to manage the cash. And there are multiple ways that you can do that. And we can discuss that in a second. The second one is way more severe. And this is you're about to lose product market fit, or you already lost your product market fit. You were there already and you lost it. And you lost it. You might lose it because of change of regulation, right? So all of a sudden, whatever you did is irrelevant anymore. You might lose that because of competition that is taking a completely different approach, right? So my first startup, some 25 years ago, was about mobile email. And we did something that was running on each and every phone. And using WAP, that, prehistorical part of the evolutions of the mobile internet. And then, RIM introduced BlackBerry. That was a very different approach and essentially made us irrelevant, right? So we lost product market fit because we were not relevant anymore because of competition, right? And it's possible. In most cases, it will be because of regulation or decision to move to another market and realize that, wait a minute, you already had product market fit in one market, but now you're moving to a new market and over there, product market fit is completely different or very different. So each one of them requires a different approach, right? And the first one is cash management is about cash management, right? So what you need to realize is, okay, so how much run rate do I have? And what do I need to do in order to extend that? And not necessarily extending that is the right approach, right? So I'll give you an example.
Right. Interesting.
You would say, let's say that you have 6 months of run rate and you lost your main source of revenues, right? Or there was an investor that told you, okay, I'm going to send you a term sheet, and they sent you a term sheet, but they did not follow up with closing the deal, right? So all of a sudden you lost money that you counted on.
Yep.
And what most people would do is basically say, okay, wait a minute, I only have 6 months of run rate. Let's reduce the cost so I have longer run rate. But longer run rate doesn't necessarily say is that you're going to increase the likelihood of raising capital. You do have more time, but you're going to end up with less velocity, less traction, and you are becoming less attractive. Yep. So for a second, I would say I'm perfectly okay with, looking at the challenges and say, okay, I just lost my term sheet or whatever it is, and I only have 6 months of run rate or 5 months or 3 months of run rate or whatever it is. And I'm going to take an action today And this is the most important part, is that you act today. Because today you still have options. If you wait, then some of the options are going to disappear. Now, the decision could be, okay, I'm going to reduce cost dramatically and I extend my 3 months into 9 months. And during this 9 months, I hope that I will be able to recover the challenges. And the other one could be, wait a minute, I'm going to maintain on the current course. Because in particular, if the reason was that an investor shy away from the deal, you can basically say, wait a minute, I was attractive enough for some of the investors. Therefore, if I maintain the velocity and the traction, I will find another one in the next 3 months. Another approach is to basically say, oh, I have a way longer run rate. I have 1 year of run rate. And in the first 6 months, I'm going to try to maintain the velocity and the traction. And then if it doesn't work, then I cut costs and I actually extend the remaining 6 months into another 12 months. So each one of those decisions are good. Which one will work? We don't know. That's the reality, right? We don't know what is essentially going to work. But we only have one shot in terms of the ability to make the decision. We have to act immediately. We have to make the decision today. So this is one part, make the decision today. The second part is that you actually need to communicate the decision, and the most important people are your team. Not the investors, not the board, not the customers, your team. Because whatever the out of crisis journey is going to look like, these are the people that are going to carry that out. So the most important part is that you maintain transparency. Look, if there is a crisis, they know. If there is a crisis, everyone knows, right? So you cannot hide that. You need to tell them, we are facing a crisis, and I would like your perspective of what do you think we should be doing or whatever it is. And we are going to make a new decision, and this decision might be hard and painful, but this is what we're going to do. And then after that, you go to the board and you go to your customers and whatever it is. Losing a major customers could be an issue, right? And that happens. The first thing that you need to do is the analysis part, right? What is being impacted? Is that cash or product market fit? Then how long is that going to be impacted? If this is an external crisis, like COVID, we decided that this is going to be at least a year. In particular, in the ski season, because it's seasonal, right? So, okay, we lost this season. Let's assume that we lost next season as well, right? So
yeah,
it's actually 2 seasons, 2 years in that sense. And then we actually had to recalculate our run rate based on that. One of the major questions that you need to ask yourself, are you still relevant? Because if you're not, then you might want to shut down the company. If you're not relevant anymore, then why fighting uphill for something that is not relevant? This is one of the areas that you can go to your investors and tell them, look, we are no longer relevant. We have 2 options. Number 1, here is your money back. Not a lot, whatever left out of it. Number 2, we already have consumed a lot of knowledge, and we already become an expert in this field, and we have a strong team. Let's try something else. But that actually requires going back into the investors and asking them that, because it's not necessarily, it's a new company, right?
Yeah.
You basically say, no, I already have the experience. I already learned so many things. I've done so many mistakes already. And if you're going to start out from scratch with someone else, then they need to do the same mistakes, right? But if you are not relevant, then this is a decision that you need to make. Trying to fight uphill something that it's not worth fighting for, you're going to waste your life on that. And then the fourth part of the analysis is how much time do we have? Now, in general, I would say companies will die if they run out of cash. But a startup, it will take them way longer to die. And some of the reason is that, look, if I would go into any of my startups and I'll tell them now we have a major crisis, and because of that, I would ask the team to, not to take salary for some time. They're probably going to say yes. In particular, if you engage that together with tons of equity, right? So, okay, we don't have we don't have cash to pay, but we can give you equity. And as soon as we will be able to raise capital, then we will pay you back. If you maintain good leadership and transparency and recognitions of the team, most likely they will stay. Now, not necessarily all of them, and not for forever. But that basically means that if you thought that you had 3 months of run rate, you have additional 3 months of run rate without pay. Probably. Now, how many times can you try this trick? It's a one-trick pony.
Once.
Only once, right? They will not trust you the second time, but they will trust you the first. At the end of the day, and this is really, in about crisis management, is understanding what kind of crisis, and then replan. And there is no right or wrong, because just last month I had a board meeting exactly about that, right? So company have a short run rate, right? About 6 months. And one of the perspectives is that, okay, let's extend that by reducing the cost, which basically means lay off some of the people, or many of the people, or half of the people. And then we double the run rate, right? And instead of 6 months, we end up with a year. And my perspective was no, that we are not going to look attractive. Not tomorrow, not in 6 months, and not even in a year, right? Because we are basically saying, okay, we're going to stop the growth completely. We're going to maintain the existing customers, and we will have longer run rate. How is that going to make us more fundable? I don't know. I think not. But obviously here there is a different perspectives on risk, right? There is no right or wrong. No one knows, right? If we would know, then it's easy. But we don't know. So we basically say, okay, we believe that this is going to be the case, and we give that higher likelihood of a different case, and this is why we are going to do that. Which one will work? We don't know.
I want to talk about the book, because you wrote the book a couple of years back, and then just recently added this new chapter on crisis management. First, I want to ask you, why at that point did you write the book, Fall in Love with the Problem, Not the Solution? And then let's get to why you decided it was important enough to add this chapter.
People know me as an entrepreneur, right? I built Waze, I built Moovit, I have 12 different startups, right? 2 unicorns so far, and I keep on building, so probably there will be more. But I'm also a teacher, so I feel equally rewarded when I build stuff myself, or I guide someone to build it. And writing the book was fulfilling my destiny as a teacher, sharing my know-how, which is quite unique with other entrepreneurs and other business people, and essentially try to help them to become more successful. Look, I have a very simple life. I have a mission. I have a purpose. My purpose is about value creation. And I'm lucky that I can create value in multiple ways, right? I can build companies, I can guide people to build it, and so forth. And for me, this is really, really important, right? So, and then I realized that, okay, wait a minute, I know so much about building startups, building companies from scratch. And there are a lot of entrepreneurs that are successful entrepreneurs that have built unicorns, but very few of them are also have the personality of a teacher. So very few people actually would write a book about the know-how of building a company. It's not about theory, right? It's about real pain. And that's what I wanted to share with the people. Now, at the end of the day, turns out to be very successful in the sense that Steve Wozniak, co-founder of Apple, called that the Bible for entrepreneurs, right?
Wow.
So, I sent him the first chapter, and he read that, and he said, I wish I had that when I started. And for me, when I grew up, he was the guy.
Oh, yeah.
So that was like the word for me.
Yeah.
and certainly an indication that I've done something wrong and something right with the book. And the book shares, the title "Fall in Love with the Problem, Not the Solution" is probably one of the most significant challenges that many entrepreneurs have. The journey of entrepreneurship is about value creation. The simplest way to create value is solve a problem. That's it. The simplest way. Now, if you focus on the problem is going to serve as the North Star of your journey. And when you have one, you are going to make less deviation from the course and increase the likelihood of being successful. But I think that by and large, the story that you're about to tell is going to be way more compelling and engaging. Just imagine that we will be here in 2007 and I will tell you I'm going to build an AI crowdsource-based navigation system, which is essentially exactly what I did, right?
Yeah.
You will say,
Wouldn't even
very
understand.
interesting, but you don't care. If I will tell you I'm going to help you to avoid traffic jams, then you do care. When your customer care, they want you to be successful and they're going to help you to become successful. So for me, I always will start with the problem. So think of a problem, a big problem, something that it's worth solving, something that the world will become a better place if you solve that. And then the next thing that you would like to do is ask yourself, so who has this problem? If you happen to be the only person on the planet, you know what? I can recommend you a therapist. Way cheaper and faster than building a startup. But if a lot of people have this problem, what you really want to do next is go and speak with those people and understand their perception of the problem. And only then start to think about the solution. And people occasionally would ask me, so how many people do I need to speak with? And I will tell them 100. Look, the most important part is to qualify the problem, right? And then to qualify the value proposition, and only then start to build about the solution. And most people don't like that, right? They already in love with their own idea. And they would ask a couple of friends, and those friends will basically, don't want to discourage them. So they will tell them, oh, go ahead and do that. Yeah. And then you forget. Occasionally I ask people, so who is your target audience? And they will tell me everyone. And then I will ask them, okay, including my grandmother. And if they will say yes, then I will tell them that she died some 30 years ago. So all of a sudden we realize it's not really everyone, right? It's and you need to define those. You need to qualify those. And so the qualification is how painful the problem is and how many people actually suffer from that, right? Or how many businesses actually have the same problem. And if you qualify that, then I would say, okay, this is probably a problem worth solving. Go and try to build a solution for that. Occasionally, people would ask me, how do I know? I will tell them, look, if you tell someone about the problem you are going to solve, and they will tell you, oh, I know someone that have this problem, this is a no-go. Right? They will tell you, no, this is not the problem. The problem is, and they give you their version of the problem, this is a go. And so you really need to listen to what they tell you, but in particular, what you want to listen and watch is how do they engage with the problem. And engage is about emotional engagement, right? So if they engage, it's worth solving.
Let me ask you, the book, extremely successful. Like you said, Steve Wozniak, reading the first chapter, what a testimonial recommendation for one of the two co-founders. I guess there was three, but the other guy left, of Apple. That was a mistake. You got out of that, wow, he said, I wish I had this book when I was starting this business, which is just must have made you feel incredible. And I am sure you have received tons of letters and emails just in terms of people who have said, this has really helped me in my journey and starting a business. But what was it that you went back and added this new chapter? Why did you do that? What was so important? How come you missed that the first time? Or how come you didn't add it in?
There are so many other chapters that I did not add eventually. Because,
I'm sure you have another 5 you'd like to add or can.
And the reason is that the book is actually pretty big book already, right? So it's more than 400 pages, and people tell me that today people don't have the patience and the span to read 400 pages book. But I thought that after a few years of reappearing crises in different shapes and forms, this is really, really important. And I decided to write another chapter and have a new edition of the book. And by the way, the new book or the new edition will be published on February 18th, so about a month.
February 18th, it will be available. Okay.
Already available in pre-order on Amazon and probably other places, but will be shipped on February 18th.
Great.
And by and large, the rest of the chapters remains the same. But this one, specifically about crisis management, is the one that you want to look when you face a crisis. One of the important part about crisis management is that you cannot prepare for the next crisis because you don't know how exactly it's going to show up. Now, if you'll tell me, okay, my preparation is that I always reserve a lot of cash, okay, that will work. But it also means that you're not fully utilizing all the resources that you have in order to increase velocity, right? So there is a price for that. Now, there is no right or wrong here. There is just a matter of I'm running the company and I would like to preserve enough cash that I can overcome the next crisis. Acceptable. And someone else will say, no, you know what, we will face a crisis once we face it. Until then, I don't care about crisis. Well, it's a good idea. Do you need to make that decision today? Yes. Because you choose your way of dealing with a crisis when it happens. And by the way, during the duration of your journey, you will face crisis. Don't worry, you will.
That is
or
true.
Start worrying, you will. It doesn't make any difference. And this is really dramatic. So I decided to write another chapter and add it to the book. And I think this is, people that already read this chapter in particular, they told me I'm going to mark that every time that I ran into a crisis and revisit it. So the first thing that I'm going to do, I'll run into a crisis, read the chapter, and then decide what to do.
Well, I will tell you, like you said, and I think I've probably interviewed at this point over 350 super successful entrepreneurs like yourself who have built incredible businesses, and every single one of them face multiple crises where it was literally fold the business or pick yourself off the mat, be resilient, continue on, figure a way around it. Does this chapter really dive into that aspect of it? Because for me, I always wondered, I wanted to do a podcast about one of my favorite quotes is, a winner is just a loser who tried one more time. And I always wanted to do a podcast about that person that didn't try one more time. But the problem is you can't find them because they never became successful. But to you and to thinking about this chapter on crises, for you, is this the most important thing? Maybe it's hard to say that way, but is this probably the biggest challenge you've seen entrepreneurs face who they just succumb to a crisis and don't pick themselves off the mat? Because resiliency is a big part of this chapter.
We realize that resiliency is the most important behavior of a startup CEO, right? Never give up. No matter what happened, never give up. You might die, but you don't give up. But where this strength is coming from, and this is the secret, from the team. The team joined your journey. and they believe in you, and they believe in the cause, and they believe in the journey. And because of them, you will never give up. Because of them, you will never give up. You might have if it would be only you. But you are committed to their commitment. And this is true leadership in my mind, right? So you, at the end of the day, they join your journey because of your leadership, right? In your passion, in your belief, in your reasoning, in whatever it is, right? Because when they joined, there was nothing, right? There was just you. And they don't give up because they believe in you, in the cause, in the mission, in the value. And because of them, you will never give up. So the secret is that you don't do it by yourself. The secret is that you rely on the team to actually empower your resilience in that sense. And they trust you that you will never give up.
At this stage for you, and obviously still building businesses, but also investing in businesses, is resiliency of the founders or founder one of the most important traits you'd look for? And if so, how do you know if this person has that trait?
So look, I even have an investment vehicle that I invest in my own startups through this vehicle. The unique part of it is that I'm always there from before the beginning. I actually engage with the CEO and the team, and occasionally it's my idea that I actually bring the team on. And sometimes it's their idea that I connect to the problem, and I basically start to guide them and mentor them. The mentorship and the coaching is the most important part, but I'm there with them throughout the entire journey. And I have a general rule is that I don't give up if you don't give up. And now you ask yourself, how empowering is that to them? Equally empower, right? Equally empower. And so the resiliency is part of the deal, but because I engage with them before we even start, it might take us a year until we actually start. During this year, I would know if they are made from the right material or not. Now, is that means that I'm correct 100% of the time? No, I do make mistakes. If you would ask me if I'm going to repeat that mistake, yes, I will, because I keep on doing, and because I keep on doing that, I will. By the way, the acknowledgement that we don't know, and the acknowledgement that we will keep on doing mistakes, make it really easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will make mistakes. But at the end of the day, this coaching of my startups and mentoring is the one that increased their likelihood of being successful. And being an entrepreneur and a founder of multiple startups, then I know that this is a very long journey. And I know that in this roller coaster journey, there are points of time that you would almost die. And every time that the CEO will come to me and tell me we are about to die, then what I ask them back is, how many times have we nearly died before? and so they need that, right? So in that sense, I would say, yes, resilience is critical. Resilience is not only from within. It's actually resilience have a relationship with either your team or your coach and mentor. And these relationships are really, really important. These are the secret that people don't know.
You've built these businesses. You're an operator. You're an investor. Now you're really a teacher, a mentor. I'm very curious. I'm sure you enjoy each of them, but I find whenever I talk to you, it seems like your real passion is in mentoring, teaching, helping others. That to me, I've never seen you in action. Of course, I know your businesses like Waze and, the other incredible businesses you built, but I see that energy when you're able to teach or help others, mentor. Do you enjoy that more than operating a business or starting a business?
Today, probably yes. Look, I'm 59 years old. And usually people that are getting to the end of a decade, they start to ask themselves, okay, so what do I want to do in the next decade, right? My answer was exactly the same. I want to keep on doing whatever I'm doing. And this is, mentoring, teaching, more than operating, right? So I don't want to operate. Obviously, I will start new companies because this is what I do. But I would do that as from the position of a coach and a mentor, and increase their likelihood of being successful this way. Obviously, also investing, right? Because for me, it's the whole 9 yards, right? I either commit or not. There is nothing in between. And so, but you're right. I enjoy that. And the beauty of a teacher personality or a coach or a mentor is a coach does not win the game. The team does. But the coach helped them and guide them. And maybe because of the coach, the team wins. But he does not win the game by himself.
It's a great point. Uri, it's always a pleasure speaking with you. If you could tell us again, I can't wait to read this chapter. I'm definitely going to pre-order. Give it to us again in terms of how you can pre-order, date it's coming out. So our listeners, who are a lot of entrepreneurs, people who want to start businesses, can actually purchase the book.
So yeah, this is the new edition, and it will be published on February 18th. Already, you can pre-order that on Amazon and other websites, but it will be delivered only on February 18th. This new edition is actually paperback, so it's a little bit lighter book than the previous one with the hardcover, and easier to read in that sense. Turns out that the hardcover is hard to read. And look, end of the day, yeah, I want you to buy the book. But more than that, I want you to read the book. Because this is how I am going to fulfill my destiny of creating value. And, towards the end of the book, there is, in the epilogue, there is an ask of pay it forward. So if you learn something that is significant, then teach someone else.
I love that. It's always a pleasure speaking with you, and just really enjoy and find so inspirational the fact that you come on and, I speak to a lot of entrepreneurs and they just want to talk about their business and building it. And, you come on and you want to talk about what you just said, paying it forward. And that's really appreciated. So many people can learn so much. I've learned so much from this conversation. I always do, speaking with you. So thanks again for your time.
Thank you. Happy to be here.